Alright, what is up, YouTube? MCole40 here. For those of you that don't know, me personally, I love Familiar Possessed to death. Iria is the best waifu to ever exist in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's so cool that we got another round of support for this deck. Now, when I was streaming last week, I got the chance to sit down. I had some decks passed my way, and I was extremely happy to get the chance to see some of these. Now, the Blazing Hida Link monster isn't in here. You can go ahead and kind of put that in on your own time. It's up to you. I think the card is okay. I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but for all intents and purposes at this current point in time, the card, it's not great. It helps some of the mechanics and things with the deck, but it's kind of weird. It's just another large beat stick that you can merge two of these into. So in the past, when we have seen Familiar Possessed decks kind of come up, everything that the deck was doing, it was kind of like a turbo deck, and then you would use Unpossessed. Unpossessed, charmer monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. If a Familiar Possessed monster you control attacks an opponent's monster, that monster will gain 800 attack during damage calculation only. And then if a monster or monsters you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon one spellcaster monster with 1500 defense from your deck whose attribute is different from at least one of those destroyed monsters' original attributes, in attack position or face down defense position. So you've got a couple things you can do. But, you know, the thing that we care about here is all of our unpossessed monsters, or Familiar Possessed, all of these have 1500 defense, which will actually clear the gate for what we want. Now, the newest support card that we've actually got is Possessed Awakening. So all monsters you control will gain 300 attack for each different attribute. So if you got just one monster on the field, it will get the global 300. And then Charmers and Familiar Possessed you control cannot be destroyed by card effects, and if a spellcaster monster whose original attack is 1850 is normal or special summoned to your field, you get to draw one card. You can only use this effect of Possessed Awakening once per turn. So we've got a draw card now, and this is the thing that I actually love most about this deck now. Like, Unpossessed gave us a wall of beat sticks to kind of make sure that we could do what we wanted to do, and now Possessed Awakening grants us an attack boost and draw power in this deck, which is already, we've raised the ceiling a lot. Now obviously, like, this deck still has its core fundamental problems, and it's still kind of sad to say that. At most, if I had to put this deck on the tier scale, I would probably have to put it at a solid 3 or 4, probably closer to 4, honestly, because in the grand scheme of things, like, the deck still isn't fantastic. But I mean, once again, we're trying here, and it's kind of cool getting the chance to see a waifu concept come together. But once again, the Link monster's not in here. You have room, you can put it in depending on like which resource you want to cut or something like that. It's kind of up in the air. Now, the thing that makes this deck so good is honestly Spellcaster Village, being able to lock out the opponent. Now, this is solely dependent on the format in which you're playing in, because like obviously your opponent can probably do some crazy things and out this, and it's kind of sad to say that because like just the way that the game of Yu-Gi-Oh goes, like, Village is a good card, but like playing around it can't be necessarily so hard. Just you stop it on activation and you did what you wanted to do. So anyway, on to the monster lineup. So your Charmer lineup, you can play like one-ofs if you really want to, or things like that. This particular build is playing 3 Lina, 2 copies of Win, 2 copies of Iria, and 1 copy of Hida. Like I said, just be aware that like when you're triggering things like Unpossessed, you need to have other attributes that you can float into. If not, like you can kind of get flooded out of these. But in terms of deck building, absolutely adjust and make sure that like you do have other attributes. Now, playing 2 copies of Gigabyte, if you control a spellcaster, you can special summon this card from your hand. This card is destroyed by battle or card effect sends to the graveyard. You can special summon 1 monster with 1500 attack, 200 defense from your deck, except for Gigabyte. Once again, just an extender that we have to kind of combo off with all of our spellcasters. Speaking of 1500, 200 Inari Fire, you can only control one Inari Fire. If you control a spellcaster monster, you can summon this card from your hand. Once per turn, during your next standby phase, after this face-up card on the field is destroyed by a card effect at the graveyard, you can special summon it. So this guy does grant floating, but once again, this is another combo extender to kind of make sure that, hey, you know, you can step into a link monster or something that you need in terms of resource value. Now, the heart and soul of the deck is, in fact, Fairytale Luna. When this card is normal, something you can add one spellcaster monster with 1850 attack from your deck to your hand. And then once per turn, quick effect, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls. Your opponent will either send one card with that monster's name from their deck or extra deck to the graveyard to negate this effect. Otherwise, this and the other monster will bounce back to the hand. So you do get full control out of that. Now, we are playing Seraph Knight for extra normal summons, so Trip Clown and Garnet just acting as extenders. Triple Secret Village, the heart and soul of the negation world for this deck. 2 copies of Brilliant Fusion. Once again, like, 3 is a little bit too much in this deck. I mean, you can try more, but, like, you're kind of going to flood yourself out, and that's not necessarily a good thing. We have 2 copies of Terraforming. Searching for, you know, Village is probably the best damn thing that you can do in this deck. Now, we do have 2 copies of Instant Fusion. Once we get Theseus and things like that, or once we get Needle Fiber, you can start doing a little bit more cheeky things with the deck, but for now, for all intents and purposes, bringing out a level 4 to step through is not a bad thing. Once again, potential Hida abuse, all depending. And then Triple Possessed Awakening. This is the new support card that I love in this deck. Thank you, 300 boost. Thank you, draw power. Thank you, stun aspects. Like, it's honestly what makes this deck good now. I am actually shocked that they gave this to us, but okay. Triple Unpossessed is the old best support card that we had going on for this deck, creating walls of monsters that our opponent can't push through. Yeah, it's pretty good. Now, we are a stun deck, so fundamentally we have to bring in a stun package. This is strictly up to you and how you want to do this. You could play Solemn Judgment. I'm not a big fan of Judgment. I understand why Judgment is good. Don't get me wrong, but you got room to adjust. So we have 2 copies of Solemn Strike, 1 copy of Solemn Warning. And then the Mirror Force package is a little bit heavy. Triple regular Mirror Force and triple Storming Mirror Force. You kind of want to force commit your opponent into killing stuff by battle. Drowning Mirror Force isn't as good as you're going to want to think it is. I can tell you that you're going to look at this setup and you're going to be like, oh, well, why aren't you playing Drowning? Like, they can get through your one monster. It's just, it's not good. As much as I want to recommend Drowning as an option, it's just not good. Now, down here in the extra deck, Summon Sorcerer is going to be one of the best things that you can have. Obviously, you can step commit as much as you want into this. Cloning for another spellcaster is not necessarily a bad thing, especially for leaving a Charmer on the board at least. But you got cute little shenanigans that you can do with this. 1 copy of Phoenix to clear out just dangerous back row. 1 copy of Saruja for draw power. Getting to a village or a Mirror Force or something, depending on what you need, is really good. 1 copy of Borolo Dragon, because taking our opponent's shit is the way of life. I love this card. Now we have a relatively high Xyz toolbox in here. We have 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 copy of Exiton Knight, 1 copy of Tornado Dragon, 1 copy of King of the Feral Imps. Remember, Imps does search for Gigabyte. He is of the Reptile class. That's, I think a lot of people kind of forgot about that as something that you can do, but yes, you can do it. We have a Utopia package of Utopia the Lightning and Utopia. 1 Silent Monarch. This card is actually kind of starting to see a little bit more play. It's kind of scary, actually. 1 copy of Castel, just to out something big. 1 copy of Dark Fire Dragon, 1 copy of Mood Dragon, and 1 copy of Seraph Knight. Now, side deck, you've got options. You can adjust for whatever metagame that you feel you're going to be playing against. We do have triple copies of Chaos Hunter. Your opponent special summons a monster, except during damage step, you can discard a card, special summon this. It'll stop your opponent from banishing cards. Triple Shared Rides kind of become a norm at this point, just to make sure that, like, when your opponent's adding cards from their deck to their hand or from their graveyard, you get to draw as well. 2 copies Called by the Grave to stop very abusive effects in the graveyard. You can go to 3 of this if you really want to. 2 copies of Twin Twister, just discard, kill back row. 1 copy of Skill Drain. Honestly, I'd consider putting this in the main. 2 copies of Metaverse activating Secret Village from the deck is a Lulzy, and then 2 copies of Curse Seal, the Forbidden Spell, for Engage. So, so guys, this is Unpossessed, the deck, or Familiar Possessed. I love what this deck can do. I think the deck is so fun. So guys, please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and well, quite an interesting deck. Alright guys, I'm out. The ride never, well, truly ends. Thank you, patrons. Without you guys, I don't know what I'd be wearing in these videos. I might be a Truffle Shuffle incident all over again. Guys, please also check out Vanquil40 for some awesome Vanguard content. Some other interesting stuff you might find up here on the left or in the description as well. Thanks for watching.